Hey, welcome back to the Big Red Zone. We are very excited for today's show. Remember, new episodes come out every Thursday. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the like button on this video as well as all our other videos. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Big Red Zone. And as always, tell a friend. This week, we're going to break down some games from Thanksgiving, some NFL games from this week. We're going to go break down the way too early awards, which we promised. We're going to look back at what we did before and if we're changing any or we're staying the same. Celtics are off to a hot start, and USA advances to the elimination round. All that and more on this week's episode of the Big Red Zone. Welcome to the podcast. This is the Big Red Zone. I'm your host, Big Red. Normally, we are joined by Danny Football, but he could not join us tonight, so I am riding solo dolo this week. I will try to do my best, and we miss him very dearly, but we didn't want to miss out on two episodes in the last couple weeks, so we decided to go this one alone. But Danny Football, we miss you as always. So it was a good week. If you're know anything about high school basketball, starts the Monday after Thanksgiving. So I had a great Thanksgiving with the family, ate a lot of food, and it was great to kind of recharge before we get into basketball. We just had this is coming off of day two of my team I'm coaching. So great 2 days of tryout so far. We got one more and then season starts, and it's been a blast. And I love coaching, man. It's one of my favorite things to do. And basketball season, something special about the Monday after Thanksgiving. It's the same everywhere. Everyone knows when it's starting, and it's just such a great week. And we get right into games next week, so I'm looking forward to it. It was been a great couple days. The kids are great, and I'm excited to get back to the whistle and start coaching. So it's a very exciting time for me. But I'm going to get into the first segment of the night, weekend recap.
It's the weekend recap.
So for weekend recap, we pick 3 games from the NFL week, one usually being the Patriots game. This week, I decided to go with all the Thanksgiving games because they were all pretty decent games. So I want to start with the first game of the day, which was the Bills-Lions game. So Lions, we talked about it on this pod before. They just have a way of blowing games, and I mean, they came out and started so well. They were losing they were losing at halftime, but I felt like it was their game, and then they turned it on in the fourth quarter. I mean, Jared Goff had an okay day, 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jamal Williams, obviously, a touchdown rushing, and Amon St. Brown is unbelievable. Jamal Williams did have the fumble, but I mean, the Lions offense does look good, and they put up 25 points, which is awesome. But, it's that defense. Defense gives up 28 points. And the Bills didn't look great, but they did enough to win the game. I mean, Josh Allen throws a 253, 2 touchdowns, and throws a pick. And it was a bad pick, too. He also got a touchdown rushing as well. That had 78 yards. He led the league in rushing as well. But it was just a unbelievable back and forth game. The guy they always say the turkey leg winner of the game. The player of the game who gets the turkey leg. I'd say it was Isaiah McKenzie, man. He came out of nowhere, had 96 yards for 6 catches and a touchdown. Was just made big play after big play. Josh Allen's been looking his way a lot the last month or so, couple weeks, and it's huge for them because they're going to need him. But the one thing I'm not the thing about this is I mean the Lions are going to be the Lions this year. I mean they I said it a million times. This team should be so much better than they are. They just don't have the horses on defense. Defensively, they're just a bad, mediocre to bad football team. And I think if they are able to focus on that in the offseason with whether it's through the draft, sign some free agents, which that will be harder. It's probably going to be have to be through the draft. They could be such a good football team because, you know, they got Amon St. Brown. They got Jamal Williams. I don't know what happened to DeAndre Swift, but they don't use him anymore. But he's a solid player. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. And I mean, they added Chark, who's a good player. And Goff, whether you want to admit it or not, is a serviceable quarterback. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, they're going to be towards the top of the draft board. They're going to want them to draft a quarterback. I don't think you have to draft a quarterback. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't want to. You want to move on from Goff, but their defense is what needs the help. So if they can shore up the defense, I think they'll be a solid football team next year. Not saying they're gonna, you know, be earth shaking, but I think they'll be a solid football team. The Bills, I don't know what's going on with the Bills. They didn't look good. As much as they were like they had the lead most of the game, didn't look efficient on offense. Defensively, they gave up 25 points. You know, again, they go a quarter and a half without getting Stephon Diggs the ball. Josh Allen's decision making looks a little, I don't know, something's off in his decision making because he should have had more than just one pick. I don't know what's going on with them, and they got to figure it out if they want to make a run. But I there's someone that Danny Football and I both thought they would be in the AFC Championship game. He had Pickett going to the Super Bowl. I had them losing to the Chiefs. I think this team isn't even. I don't even know if this is the best team in the division, which is crazy for me to say. So needless to say, this is a big game going into Thursday. I mentioned that I'm going to be going there with the missus on Thursday, and it's going to be a huge game for us because I mean it's pretty much do or die for the Patriots. Patriots, I mean, we said they got to win 10 games, and one of them is splitting with the Bills, and the home game's obviously easier to split with them. So they got to win this Thursday for the Pats, and the Bills kind of got to look at it as a must-win for them because they've lost every single game in the division, and it's just been embarrassing. So, huge game for them, but good first game of the slot. It was a good first game of the Thanksgiving day, and Bills were able to pull that one out at the end of the game. Looking at the second game, Cowboys versus Giants. I mean, this is a tale of two halves of the season for them. Giants were so hot to start the season. I mean, Daniel Jones played really well to start the year, kind of cooled off a little. They're 1-3 in their last four games, which is obviously not a good sign. Most of their losses come in the last 4 weeks. They have four losses on the season. So, I mean, three of their four losses have come in the last 4 weeks. So that's not a good sign. And I mean, as we just talked about, one of the losses came against the Lions, which we just talked about. Cowboys, which are a good team. I'll get to that. And the Seahawks, who are, battling. They're a surprise this year, but they're battling. You got to have those games. So, Saquon had a quiet day. He had a touchdown, but only 39 yards. And the Cowboys, the defense, Giants defense stepped up. They had a lead. They had a 13-7 lead going into halftime. But this Cowboys offense is really good. And I was having this conversation with someone today. I don't get why people don't believe in Dak. Dak is a solid quarterback. He should be one of the top quarterbacks in the league, viewed as one of the top quarterbacks in the league. And people don't like to look at him like that. And when he's on an offense with CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and Dalton Schultz, and his running backs are Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, who's starting to get hot, by the way. Zeke had 16 carries. He had less carries than Pollard, but he had 92 yards and a touchdown. he's starting to feel it. I get Dak had two picks. They were bad picks, but man, this Cowboys team, I don't know if it's just they do it every year. They get you to buy into it, but I think the thing that is different for me this year is their offense is good, but the defense is even better. So the defense is what I'm buying into. They did give up 20 points, but that's going to happen against good football teams. I think this Cowboys team could go deep in the playoffs. I'm not saying Super Bowl, but I think they could go up against some of the great best teams in the league, and they're gonna do all right. And it's gonna be a dogfight, and I think they could do well and go far in this playoff run. As far as the Giants, I mean the Giants, I think they're coming back down to earth a little bit, but I think they're decent. They're still a good football team, but I think they'll make a quick exit in the playoffs. So they're still a playoff team, but they're going to be make a quick exit out of the playoffs. So um, they still have a lot of work to do on that roster. Dayball's done a great job, but I think the Cowboys are more closer to a deep run than the Giants are as of right now. So it's going to be interesting. It was a good second game. Um, it's back and forth. 28-20 was the final score. Some highlight I said told you about Zeke. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is someone that has really been a nice. He's really like stepped up and kept it going from last year. He had 6 catches, 106 yards, and then Dalton Schultz, man, he's one of Dak's favorite targets in the red zone. He had 2 touchdowns, so it's that team's going to be. I mean, the one little nerve-wracking thing was not a lot of action for Tony Pollard, but I think that's just gonna. They play the Colts this week. Colts and the Texans next week. Both these next 2 games are home. I expect Tony Pollard to kind of come back to it a little bit. And I mean, I think this Cowboys team is going to roll the next 2 weeks. I mean, that's 2 games that they should win, and they're just going to continue to get better. So, um, as of now, they are in. Let's see. I mean, they're in second place in their division with the Eagles, and the Eagles keep winning games, so I don't know if they're gonna go undefeated the rest of the season. I don't know if they will, but you gotta expect they're gonna win a lot of their games, but they should hold one of those top wild card spots right now. I think they're a game up. That was a huge game for them because they moved up a game from the Giants, so they get the home field advantage. Not home field, excuse me. They get the top wild card seed in the playoffs. So I don't know. I think the Cowboys could make a deep run. I mean, especially if they play, they're probably going to play a team like the 49ers or winner of the South, like the Bucks. That's going to be a good game. I don't know. Probably would be like the 49ers. I'm guessing. I don't know. I forget. I don't know where they'd fall in the playoffs, and they could end up. The Eagles drop a couple. They could move up to the 1 seed. I don't know. It's a close division. That division, which was a joke, is turned into be one of the best in the NFC. So record wise, so it should be an interesting finish down the stretch. And moving on to our final game, the Pats versus Vikings. This one just put a bad taste in my mouth for Thanksgiving. It was a terrible way to end the night. It was probably the worst officiating game I've ever seen in my life. We got, the screw job on the Hunter Henry touchdown. It was a touchdown. The missed hold on Duggar on the return turned into a touchdown. The running into the kicker, which I guess you can call it, but I hate that kickers can just throw their legs out and get hit. It's like they flop. It's like a flop in basketball. That turned into 6 points, and that ended up giving them the go-ahead lead. It was just this total screw job for the Pats, and it isn't right because they were playing so well in that game offensively. Offensively, they were playing the best they played all year. Max looked the best like he was last year. He finished with 382 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks. It was just really good. Devontae Parker, it was spread out across the way. Uh, how many? One, two, three, four, five. One, two, three, four, five, six Patriots receivers with at least 62 yards or more. They had three receivers with 60 over 60 yards, and then Ramondre Stevenson, who's been a beast, had 76 yards, and then Devontae Parker was the leader with 80 yards. A couple touchdowns for Nelson Aguilar and Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry should have two touchdowns. Actually had three touchdowns thrown. But it was just it was a bad way to end the game because they deserved to. They played. I mean, they played really bad defensively and they made a lot of mistakes. But it just hates to waste a game that Mac throws for over 300 yards, almost 400 yards, and we lose that game. After the offense has just struggled so much. If you want to look for any solace, I mean, defensively, the defense and special teams lost this game for us, and that was what's been keeping us in games all season. So my hope is that we go into Thursday night and we can play all facets of the game, and defensively, offensively, and special teams, we all dominate or play well. So they give us the best chance to win the game. Kirk Cousins played great, 299 yards, three touchdowns, and a pick. Now the Patriots stopped the running game. It wasn't really anything impressive. Dalvin Cook was held to only 42 yards, but the man, the myth, the legend, Justin Jefferson, 9 catches, 139 yards, and a touchdown. That's one of those times that I have him in fantasy football, so I love him getting points, but at the same time, it's a heartbreaker. You know what I mean? And Adam Thielen's really solid. I know Bill hates him. That was so funny at the end of the game when he shoved him off, but he got a touchdown with 61 yards, and then that was a bad touchdown too. We just got lost, lost in coverage, gave up an easy one there, and TJ Hawkinson played pretty well. That's a great ad for them at the deadline. 43 yards on 5 catches and a touchdown. This team's good, man. I mean, this offense can. When we talk about games, we've talked about it before, where they just go toe to toe with people offensively. It's whoever scores more points. It's not really a defensive minded team. Their offense, it's throw big punches. This is the Vikings. The Vikings have done that, and they're 9-2, and people aren't really talking about them. This team should be a threat to win the Super Bowl. I'm going to say it right now. Their coach is doing a great job. Kirk Cousins will get you there. He's good enough to get you and possibly give you a fighting chance. Justin Jefferson's a superstar. Adam Thielen's a really solid player. Dalvin Cook is a star. TJ Hawkinson is one of the best tight ends in the league. This offense is really, really good, and they have complementary players off of them on this offense. So this team has to be a real threat to win, and I'm just excited to see what they do. Uh, I'm glad we don't have to play them again. I'm glad they're on the other side. But if something happens, the Pats get hot, which I don't think they will. Maybe the AFC team, whoever wins the AFC, we're gonna have to go play the Vikings. I think they're a solid team. They're gonna be right there in the end. I don't. If you were asking me who do I think between the Eagles and the Vikings would make the Super Bowl, I would pick the Vikings in a heartbeat because I just think that they're a way better football team. On the other side of the coin, the Patriots need to use this as a building. The offense played really well. It was on the road, bad calls, a couple calls go a different way, and now you're 7-5, 7-4 going into next week. You're, you know, 7-4 puts you at, in third place with we're tied with the Jets again. You're a game out of first with playing the Bills. It's I hope they can use this and build on it and beat the Bills, and that will change the division. That will break the division wide open because then you got the Bills again. You're splitting with the you have you have at least a one game win over the Bills. Swept the Jets. You have one loss to the Dolphins. You can sweep split with the Dolphins and win their last game. They're sitting pretty. They're sitting okay, and they just got to win the games that we talked about in the past. So, um, I think. I mean, it's hard to I'm not happy with the outcome, but I'm just hopeful that they use this and build on this and get a big win. Also, as I mentioned, I will be in attendance for Thursday game, so that's got to help the morale for this team. Um, all right, let's move on to our next segment of the night, the picks of the week.
Picks of the week.
So for picks of the week, we pick one game from the NFL week. I am crushing everyone. I am on an absolute heater right now. 10-1 on the season. Danny Football is 8-3. You got the last one right. Guess record is 5-2. I'm gonna make Danny Football pick two games next week because this is unfair. If I get this one wrong and he's gonna be half a game back. It's not really fair. So I'm gonna a game and a half back, I guess it would be. So I'm gonna make him pick two games next week to kind of even it out. So I am gonna go with the Vikings over the Jets. Jets, I need a big loss. I think Mike White came in and played really well. Their offense looked pretty good. But Vikings, I was just talking about, they're one of the best teams in the league. So I think they're gonna come out and beat the Jets. I don't think it's gonna be that close. And the Vikings are gonna roll. So give me the Vikings over the Jets to get me to my 11th win. With that said, for my waiver pick of the week, surprisingly enough, I'm going to go with a Jets player. I'm going to go with, now forgive me if I mispronounce his name, Zonovan Knight, the rookie running back. He's rostered in 0.1% of leagues in ESPN. He had 14 carries for 69 yards and go along with 3 catches for 34 yards. Rookie, young, he's worth a stash. Stash him on your bench if you're a keeper league. He may be a solid keeper by the end of the year. You never know what he's going to do. I mean, that running back room is pretty stuffed up, but I mean, pretty decent, and he may be worth sticking on your bench and seeing what happens. So, um, let's put it. That's going to be my waiver pick of the week. All right, we're going to move on to way too early awards. I told you, I think last week we had to do our mid-season awards. Danny Football is, I guess, missing this, which is disappointing. I will remind you of our picks from preseason. I went with, and I'm very disappointed in myself in a lot of these picks. This is embarrassing. I'll tell Danny Football's first. So Danny Football went with Josh Allen for MVP. Defensive Player of the Year, he went with T.J. Watt. Offensive Rookie of the Year, he went with Breece Hall. Defensive Rookie of the Year, he went with Aiden Hutchinson. And Coach of the Year, he went with Josh McDaniels. That makes me feel a lot better, Danny Football. Tough picks, some tough picks in there. The Breece Hall one would have been good if he stayed healthy, but in TJ Watt, both of them got hurt, so those are probably washes. I went with, and I'm embarrassed to say, Tom Brady winning the MVP, Micah Parsons, Chris Olave. I also went with Aiden Hutchinson for Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I went with Sean McDermott for Coach of the Year. I will say most of mine have changed. I think I have one that has stayed the same, and I'll start with that one. No, I'll start with Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year, I'm going to go with Nick Sirianni of the Philadelphia Eagles. They came out of nowhere. I mean, they have the best. I believe they have the best record. Yeah, best record. I mean, they have the best record in football as of right now. It kind of came out of nowhere. He's got them playing really well. You have to go with him, man. I mean, I look at team for Coach of the Year. Always try to pick a coach that takes his team when you weren't expecting it to be successful, and I think, and also his team's the best in the league as of right now, record wise. I don't think it's team roster wise. I still think some teams are better, but they are on paper and on record wise the best team in football. So, I think he has to win that Coach of the Year award. For Defensive Rookie of the Year, I'm changing it to Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner could be one of the best corners in the league. I think it could be a generational talent. Um, he's just so good on the defensive side of the ball. He changes the team. And I was disappointed with how Aiden Hutchinson, he's shown flashes of what he did in college, but he hasn't been that player that I thought he was going to be and help that Lions team. I think if he gets some help, maybe he'll do well, but um, it just hasn't been there. So I'm very excited with Sauce Gardner, and he's a stud, man. He's an absolute stud. So definitely him for defensive rookie of the year. Offensive rookie of the year, I'm going with Kenneth Walker, K9. I mean, there's a lot of options there, right? You could go with the Brees Hall because he dominated the first half, but getting injured and missing most of the year, that hurts your chances in my eyes for winning that award. Um, you could go with Chris Olave, who was who I picked, because he's been really good. Like he's putting up big games and big numbers, but I don't know. I think Kenneth Walker being an RB1, Damian Pierce is also in the conversation, but I feel like Kenneth Walker is quickly becoming one of the best running backs in the game. Not the best, but he's creeping up the ladder, and he's having an impressive rookie campaign, and a large to do with the success Seattle's having. Um, and also in a Pete Carroll system, their RB1 always gets a lot of touches. So in the passing game and rushing game, so I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker. I think that's a solid pick, and I think that's he's not the leading odds guy in Vegas right now. So I'd put some money down on K9 for comeback player of the year award. This one I'm kind of struggling with. You know, I wanted to go with say Christian McCaffrey just because of his injury, and he's been playing pretty well this year. But I really want to go with Geno Smith. Geno Smith, people wrote off. They thought he was a backup quarterback or going to retire soon. And he has totally taken that team and done his job and done a great job. He's winning games. He's helping them win games. He's one of the top ranked quarterbacks in the league right now, statistically. He's been unbelievable. So I don't think we picked a comeback player of the year award player, but I'm going to write it down in the notes. I just kind of picked that right on the spot. But I'm going to pick Geno Smith. I'm just very happy for him. People thought he was done. They thought his career was over. And I'm just happy that he's kind of had a resurgence. And, he's a stud, man. He's an absolute stud. Next, I'm going to go with defensive player of the year. This is the one I'm sticking with that I went with my preseason pick. I'm going with Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is a special player. I mean, I talked about Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner changes their defense, right? He changes that Jets defense and makes them a solid defensive unit. Micah Parsons does that to another level in Dallas. He helped keep that team alive when Dak went out hurt and helped them win a lot of games. And he's put up a lot of stats, a lot of impressive numbers from him this year. So to look at a few, he has 12 sacks on the year. He has a three forced fumbles and 50 tackles. And we've only played 11 games. Last year, to give you some perspective, he had 13 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 84 tackles. He already is 1 sack less than what he had, same amount of forced fumbles, and he's about 34. He's 34 tackles away from matching what he had last year in 5 less games. He played 16 games last year. He's just unbelievable, and he keeps getting better and better and better. He's just a unbelievable talent, and he's just continued to keep it. So I'm going to stick with him as my defensive rookie of the year, and I think that's a solid pick. If you put money on it before the season, I think that's a good pick for you. And for MVP, I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes. I'm switching. Sorry, Tommy. Going with Patrick Mahomes. Now, I hate doing this because I hate boosting, jumping on the Mahomes, not even the Mahomes bandwagon, but really try to root against Patrick Mahomes. But what he is able to do this year is pretty impressive. He's putting up numbers. He's an impressive guy. He still got Travis Kelce, right? He's still got a solid weapon in there. but everyone thought he was going to be terrible with, not terrible, but they were like, what is he going to do when Tyreek's gone? They thought his numbers were going to take a dip. It's actually not true. He's stayed right on pace, um, if not a little better. He, looking at the statistics right now, he's right now, he currently has, let's see, compared to last year, he's about 1,000 yards shorter than what he did last year. And he's only has eight less touchdowns less than he had last year. And again, in six less games. So in the six, you got to figure in these next six games, he's bound to get eight touchdowns. That's not hard for Patrick Mahomes, what he's been doing. And you got to figure he's going to get, I would think he'll get at least 1,000 yards more and put you close to what he put up in yardage. And that's without one of his best targets in the game. He's throwing to guys minus, all due respect, minus Travis Kelce. He's throwing to guys like MVS. He just got Tony. Juju's been in and out, being hurt and not. Sky Moore hasn't really been the guy. So it's pretty much been Travis Kelce and then pick a guy for the rest of the year. So Pat Mahomes has just played impressive. He's statistically one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I know people are going to want to go with Josh Allen or, Jalen Hurts, which I'd be totally fine if Jalen Hurts won the MVP. We said it when he got drafted. I said he's going to be a future MVP. In one of my leagues in Sleeper, you can nickname the players. I swear to you, I nicknamed the player Jalen Hurts when I drafted him future MVP. And this could be the year. I think it's definitely within the wheelhouse, but I think just based on what I see in the eyeball test with Patrick Mahomes, I think he's got to win the MVP. So, very impressive year for him, but I'm going to go with Pat Mahomes. So that's my way too early awards. As you can see, one change. I mean, one stayed the same, all the rest changed, and that shows how much this year's been. So let's move on. Let's change a little bit to the Celtics. I mean, we talked a little bit about them last week, and I'll talk a little bit more about them this year. They're 9-1 in their last 10 games. It's even better. They're first in the conference, had the best record in the NBA, by a few games. Tatum and Brown, it's easy to say, like Tatum and Brown are just playing out of their minds, right? They're playing really well. But they've I think what's more impressive is what they've been able to do without Tatum. I mean, Jaylen Brown stepped in and played unbelievable. He he definitely, like, they could have two players starting in the All-Star game without it. And I know we don't care about All-Star games, but two players starting the All-Star game, you got to be doing something good. Just a statistic for you. Jason Tatum averaging 30.8 points a game, 7.7 rebounds, and 4.6 assists. A little under a steal a game and over a block a game, with averaging a little over two turnovers a game. That is unbelievable. That is the MVP that we know is going to, like, that we have. Then we look at Jaylen Brown, 26.1 points a game, 6.5 rebounds a game, 3.4 assists a game, over a steal a game, and he's averaging a little over three turnovers. But I think the most important one is over 6 rebounds and 26 points as the number two. And that's just because he's not getting, when Jason Tatum's in there, he's getting the majority of the shots. Jaylen Brown is like equal, just a hair under Jason Tatum, and could be equal to. I don't think people realize how lucky we are to have both those guys. And I mean, Marcus Smart's playing great. I mean, his assist numbers are great. Obviously, steal numbers are great. But there's two takeaways from this that I've seen of this start to the year, which I thought they were going to be good. I didn't think they were going to be this good. But number one is how lucky we are to have 1A, 1B in Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Best duo in the NBA. They two of the best young players in this league, and they're just enter. Jaylen Brown's probably just entering his prime, and Jason Tatum is a year or so out of his like entering his prime. He just continues to get better. And the other thing is how important this team, the veteran leadership, and I think that's what put this team over the edge. I have it in the notes here. I think this is as of right now, on November 29th, 2022. I think this is the second greatest Celtics team in franchise history as of right now. I think it's the second best, and I think by the end of the year, it could be the best Celtics team in Celtics history. I'm not ready to put it ahead of the Larry Bird, um, with Bill Walton winning the Sixth Man of the Year, that championship team. They're gonna win the championship, right? But I think I'm ready to say this team is better constructed than the '08 championship. I mean, they may have had one more star. I mean, it's close, but they may have had one more star in Ray Allen. But as a team, and like, I think they can get away with it because no offense to Paul Pierce and KG. KG is one of my favorite players, second favorite player of all time, my favorite player I ever watched. He was probably the number two on that team. I think Jaylen Brown's a better number two because he's a number one. He's a number one on that team with Jason Tatum. You have two number ones on the team. And no offense to Paul Pierce. I love the truth, but Jason Tatum's better. I think I'm ready to say he's better. Jason Tatum will probably be, if he stays his whole career with the Celtics, he will be the greatest Celtic of all time. And that takes a lot for me to say. People that know this podcast and listen know how much I defend Larry Bird. I think he could be the greatest Celtic of all time. And I think Jason Tatum could be a top player in NBA history. He's just so good. The way he's able to score, the way he's able to rebound, the way he's able to pass. He's just missing that championship. And I think this year is going to be the year that they win the title and he wins the MVP of the league, regular season MVP. Um, and on top of that, the reason, that's one reason that I think they're going to win the championship. The other is the veteran leadership. Um, I saw some clips of like Brogdon and Blake, and it's so great I mean, I've been saying this, we need veteran presence in this locker room. And I think Brogdon and Blake were the perfect ads for this team. That Brad has done such a great job. I can't say it enough how good Brad's done. Um, but I think people undervalue the signing of Blake Griffin. And I get he's not playing that much, and everyone gets excited when he throws down the dunk, which I'm jealous I missed. I hope he does it tomorrow. I'm going tomorrow night on Wednesday. But his veteran leadership in that locker room, it's like, we talk about Al. Al was just a calming force for the team. Anytime everyone got a little too crazy, everyone got a little too wild, too hot, too low, too high, Al would be there to be like, let's calm down, let's move on. We got it, relax, we're on the next one. Blake's another voice in there. That's a kind of a calming presence. He wants to win. He wants everyone to do their job so he can get his first ring. And I think he's a calming force. Same thing with Brogdon. Brogdon's been around. He talked about going around and trying to be that calming force, saying, how great it is here and this special this place is. I don't know. I think this is the year we're going to win. I really have that feeling. I feel like in my bones we're going to win the championship. And Tatum is going to win the MVP. Both of those hinge on health. I mean, our team is this good and we don't even have Rob. Rob's supposed to come back around Christmas. He's going to be unbelievable. And then Gallo's already starting to run. Maybe by the end of, I'm not counting on him, but maybe in the championship run, he's playing. Who knows if he gets a couple minutes off the bench. So this team is going to be good. I think this is a not a solid. This is a unbelievable roster, and this is going to be the year. So Celtics fans, we got a couple of months to go, but I think this is come the summertime, we're going to be planning another parade. I really do. As long as everyone stays healthy, I think this is going to be our year. Real quick before we get into the final segment, final people's topic. Shout out to the USA team. Danny Football's our soccer connoisseur, so I'm not going to pretend like I know as much as him about soccer. But huge tie against England. I know that game Danny Football was nervous about. But they tie they tie England, which is huge, and then they beat Iran today and advance to the elimination rounds. Unbelievable. Go USA. Um, I wish I'm not a big soccer guy. People of the pod, fans of the pod know this, but always support the team. Great great run by the USA team, and hopefully next week we can get Danny Football's take on it, and um, they can continue to dominate the World Cup. So go USA! All right, we're gonna get to our final segment of the night, the people's topic.
It's the people's topic, baby! People's topic.
So for people's topic, you write on our Instagram and Twitter page at Big Red Zone. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you want to talk about this week. We're gonna get into it. All right, let's pull them up. This one comes from Vicky. She says, "Who's gonna win Thursday?" Pats, baby, Pats. Go Pats. This one comes from Emily. Another World Cup USA advancing to the round of 16 in the World Cup. Again, we just talked about it. Unbelievable. Very happy. Danny, I wish Danny Football was here because he could give a little more perspective on that. But um, yeah, it's huge, huge. Hopefully they can keep it up, keep winning. So we can talk about it next week. This one comes from Ben Rappaport. Fantasy drama. A lot of fantasy drama in the Rocks Fantasy Football League, the league that me and Danny Football are part in. This league is now 5 or 6 years old. Some trades that were made that are just absolutely foolish. A lot of controversy, a lot of words were exchanged, a lot of blows were made, and the strong only survive, I guess. So they have a late deadline in that league. So deadline is the first, so a couple days from now, I think Friday. So the madness can only get more. This one comes from Mrs. Big Red. Me, she says, me. First of all, we're going to the Patriots game, so that should be fun with Mrs. Big Red. Also, shout out one of our favorite places in Abington, the Depot, announced they're closing today, and that's very disappointing. I love the Depot. Unbelievable steak tips and mashed potatoes. So make sure you get over to the Depot in Abington because they are a great place, and I'm very sad they're closing. So shout out to them. Um, this one comes from Ed. He writes, "Are the it's, man? Ed was reading my mind. He goes, are the Cowboys for real this year, or you expect them to fizzle out?" If you go with history, if history repeats itself, they will fizzle out or they'll blow it at some point. But I don't know. The Cowboys, I feel like eventually they got to put together a run. I don't know if they'll win it this year or they'll be in the Super Bowl per se, but I think they definitely got to go far. No, I think they have to go far. Uh, This one comes from Paige. Paige wrote in last week too late. She said last week she told us Happy Thanksgiving. And have you watched Ted Lasso? So good. I have not watched Ted Lasso, but the missus watched it. Telling me I gotta watch it, so I think I'm gonna binge it and just bang it out. It looks funny and definitely gotta watch it. But Paige wrote the World Cup. Again, this is Danny Football's forte, so but very exciting for USA moving forward. And then finally, we'll get to Joseph underscore Celia with a basketball question. He writes, beside Golden State and Milwaukee, who are the biggest threats to the Celtics? I say Phoenix. So, if I'm looking at the standings, I mean, no one from the East really scares me. The Nets their Nets aren't scaring me. They're starting to win games. They're 6-4 the last 10. They're starting to come on. The Heat are starting to kind of climb back up. Uh, we talked about it. The Hawks were going to kind of fall out of it eventually. I think the Wizards are going to eventually fall. So no one from the East really scares me. Even the Bucks. I mean, the Bucks will be a good series. Cavs would be a good series, but at the end of the day, I think I'm not too scared of them. Um, a team that's kind of nerve wracking. I'm not even as nervous about the Warriors, to be honest with you. Phoenix is a good one because I think they're hungry. They won it this year. They lost in the finals. They got bounced early last year. Um, they got a lot of controversy in the offseason, so I think they really want to win it this year. Um, the Nuggets are always an interesting one because they always fizzle out. They always lose earlier. Injuries happen. Um, like Joker played Joker. They have a pretty good team. But the Pelicans are an interesting team because I think that's an underrated team. A lot of people are starting to believe in them. Brandon Ingram is a great player. He's underrated, probably one of the most underrated players in the NBA because he's just so good. They got Zion, who's I think starting to turn it on a little bit this year. That's a good basketball team. And the Grizzlies too. I think the Grizzlies, they were gonna beat the Warriors last year in the Western Conference Finals. I'm not that nervous about them. Not really that nervous about the Pelicans either. Probably if I had to pick a team, probably you're right. I think I'd pick the Suns. But as the only team in the NBA I'm really nervous about. But the Pelicans are an interesting team because are they can roll. They have really good pieces around them. They got a deep team and they're just really, really good. So um, yeah, I'm not even worried about the Warriors, to be honest with you, just about the Scorcelia. They haven't really shown me much this year. And again, they're going to turn it on. They were 7-3 in their last 10, but won 3 in a row. They're great at home, not so great on the road. I think they'll find level, but the Suns are definitely a team to watch out for in the Celtics' quest to win an NBA championship. So I think that's it. I want to thank everyone for writing in to people's topics. Remember, you can run in our Instagram and Twitter page at Big Red Zone. Leave us a comment, let us know what you want to talk about. Make sure you give us a follow as well. You can also follow us on TikTok at Big Red Zone. Also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. You can also hit the notifications bell so they let you know when all our episodes drop. And as always, please tell a friend. Thank you for listening. Can't wait to have Danny Football back. I missed you, Danny Football. But hopefully we can get him back on the pod next week. And thank you all for listening. Have a great week, everyone.